Okay, Mike. Been a quite remarkable start to the season for City that carried in Europe in midweek, but they'll be missing their skipper Vincent Kompany for the QPR game.
Yeah, and that will be a significant loss. I think Vincent Kompany perhaps hasn't been as outstanding as he was last season, but he's still been a very much a key figure in City's defence and a leader really for them. And the fact that they're without him at QPR tomorrow will be a test of their strength in depth in defence. I think that was part of the reason that Roberto Mancini decided to give Stefan Savic a game against Villarreal in midweek, to give him a little bit more top level experience before perhaps throwing him in against QPR. But we'll see how they cope without him tomorrow. Absolutely.
One player who impressed again in midweek was David Silva, back on his home turf. He picked up a bit of a knock. Do you think he's going to be all right for tomorrow?
I think we certainly hope so. Again, Roberto Mancini has the significant strength in depth that he doesn't necessarily need to risk a player if he's not 100% fit. It'll be assessed. They'll look at it in training today, and they'll make a final decision on it ahead of the game tomorrow. But I think he was taken off as a precaution against Villarreal to make sure that he didn't sort of suffer any more punishment from opposing defenders who were perhaps getting a little bit fed up of him sort of causing them so many problems. And they'll assess him, and if he's 100% fit, they'll give him a go. If there's any risk, they obviously wouldn't want to put him out of action for too much long, so they'll assess it and take it from there.
Sure. One player that Mancini could perhaps turn to if Silva doesn't make it is Adam Johnson. Now, he's been a bit of a controversial figure this season, in so much as he's been in and out of the team, and Mancini's criticised him on occasion, but he's obviously a player of great stability. What's your view on Johnson at City?
It's a strange one, Johnson. I mean, I saw the game against Aston Villa last month, in which Adam Johnson scored one goal and had a part in all of the other three as City won 4-1. And afterwards I asked Roberto about him, if he thought he'd had a good game, and he said, oh, well, he was so-so. And there seems to be an element to Roberto Mancini. He seems to be very sort of reluctant to sort of build up Adam Johnson's ego too much. There seems to be an element of trying to keep him in his place, trying to establish the importance of working hard and drilling this work ethic into him. He said exactly the same after the Wolves Carling Cup time, in which Johnson, again, to all intents and purposes, to us onlookers, seemed to have a very good game, but Mancini was critical afterwards of the fact that he didn't track back for Wolves' second goal. And there's an element of him wanting to make sure that Mancini wanted to make sure that Adam Johnson sort of lives up to his ability and his potential, and doesn't start to think, okay, I've made it now, I can slack off a bit. And you get a sense that Adam Johnson gets a bit fed up with this at times, but make no bones about it, Roberto Mancini is doing this for Adam Johnson's own good, and I think we are seeing improvements in Adam Johnson. He's a better player now than he was at Middlesbrough, certainly, and I think in the long term, Adam Johnson, although he's perhaps not too keen on the criticism, will thank Roberto Mancini for it.
Sure, okay. I mean, City have just been relentless this season, haven't they? They've made the best start since, well, who knows when. And they seem to be scoring goals whichever team they put out. What dangers do you think QPR might pose for the Blues?
Well, they've got two very well-known dangers to City fans, in Sean Wright-Phillips and Joey Barton. I know that Roberto has spoken glowingly about Sean Wright-Phillips in the build-up to the game. He's a player who had undoubted talent, and on his day was absolutely outstanding for City, but seemed to suffer from a few confidence issues. Perhaps the fact that he wasn't playing regularly, the fact that Mancini wasn't able to give him regular football because of the quality of his squad. He needed to move on. He seems to be enjoying his football again at QPR, Wright Phillips, and he will be. Make no mistake about it. He will be an undoubted threat tomorrow. And QPR are not a team to be taken lightly. I know that they played Chelsea with 9 men for most of the game, but they beat them, and they gave the defenders enough problems that they sort of forced the situation with the first sending off, and so Chelsea sort of didn't have the ability to stand up to the threat that QPR posed. So QPR will make it awkward for City tomorrow. Neil Warnock is, you'd expect that with any team managed by Neil Warnock, and certainly with Sean around and perhaps Joey sort of causing a few ructions in midfield as well, it could be quite a tasty game.
Okay, Mike, that's great.